Okay, English 12 for Friday the 20th. It's a continuation of us reading Death of a Salesman. Yesterday we should have finished off Act 1. Okay, and I had several questions for you to respond to, so I'm going to talk about some of those things today. Again, if yours is different, that's not a problem. Most of them are your opinions, or like I said, you were able to find some of the examples within the text itself, and it should be pretty obvious. Okay. So our first question was, what were some reasons that we think Willie is hostile toward Biff, given what we know about, I guess, both characters at this point. So we know that Biff and Willie have been had a kind of a struggling relationship in Biff's adult life, at least, because we know at one point Biff was the star quarterback and popular with the girls and popular at school and popular with his friends, and potentially even had some colleges looking at him for scholarships so he could go on and be successful, right? But we also find out within these readings that Biff is struggling in math class and he needs to get that taken care of if any of that's going to happen. Okay, so we can assume that probably didn't work out since Biff is in the place that he's in now. Okay, so one thing we got to consider that we saw both in the film and in the readings is Willie's idea of success, right? If people like you, or you're popular, and you're good at sports, you're a manly man, then there's no way you couldn't be a success. Like his brother Ben, who, again, I said, is he even real or not? We don't know. But most people don't become successful by walking into a jungle in Africa and finding diamond mines and coming out rich at 21. It just doesn't happen that way. But we also know that, Biff is 34 at this point. He's had 20 or 30 different jobs. He didn't really make it in New York City when he worked there as a younger man. And at this point, he has nothing. And, he comes back home and obviously it causes these tensions. Okay, so just some things to think about there. The next prompt I gave you was a quote from Linda telling, her boys that, a small man can be just as exhausted as a great man. And we see that with Willie, traveling on the road for 30 some years. We also found out that he's, no longer being paid a salary, but he only gets commission. So he has to sell things in order to make money. And again, that's a little bit of a slap in the face after all the time that he's done this, but also maybe shows us that Willie has not been very successful, but he keeps trying. He tries to encourage his boys. He tries to pay all the bills. He goes out every day and does all those things. Not only for himself and his family, but because, that's all he's got, right? And we also saw in the previous reading that, Charlie offered him a job for $50 a week, which doesn't sound a lot to us in these times, but it actually would have been okay for Willie. He would have been able to survive on that, but instead he turned him down. Okay, because of his pride, good or bad, was something that I had you respond to on a previous e-learning assignment. So just think about those things that Willie does, even though he's not, he's not making a ton of money, or maybe he even feels a little dejected by his job. He still gets out of bed every morning and tries to do this. Okay. So the third question I had you respond to was, how does what Linda says about the sons, she pretty much calls them out for, not taking care of their dad and not becoming successful, because neither of them are really, not even happy. And then shortly after that, they come up with this, crazy plan to start some sort of sporting goods company and go traveling around. And they really think that people are going to want to see two washed up athletes in their mid-30s, demonstrate these products through playing these games. Because to some extent, they're still kind of boys. If you remember, Happy thinks if he can outrun you or outbox you, then he should be boss. And we'll find out some things about Biff later on that kind of coincide with that. So just think about that a little bit. Think about what Happy focuses on. Think about what Biff says about himself in terms of, they're adulting, I guess. They're not doing a very good job at it, or they have really kind of screwed up priorities if you think about Happy in that way. Okay, so just look back at that. Like I said, there's this kind of a big speech that she gives them and kind of puts them in their place a little bit concerning her concerns, about their father and everyone's well-being, really, in the play. And then the last thing that we see in Act 1 is that Linda, straight up asks Willie, what does Biff have against you? Why is he so hostile towards you? It works both ways there. And we saw in one of the previous, scenes in the play that it looks as if Willie cheats on Linda when he's on the road. And although we don't know if Biff knows that yet, it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on. So it's pretty telling that Willie doesn't respond to Linda. He just says go to bed or something like that, and kind of blows it off, because he knows and Biff knows what they know about each other. And this is kind of the underlying tension that we'll find out about later in the play. Like I said, unfortunately, this play slowly reveals all of these critical pieces of evidence that we need in order to kind of analyze the play and judge these characters correctly. All right. So hopefully you didn't have much problem with that. So our new assignment is going to be to read just the next 7 pages or so on that PDF that I posted to Google Classroom. Okay, it's the whole play. But our original page numbers don't match up with what I have on the scroll already. So you need to listen very carefully to this, to these instructions. So right underneath the scroll, and it says something about an iMovie. Don't worry about that. There's vocab on there. Don't worry about that yet. Okay, we don't need to worry about those things yet. Maybe save that for next week. Okay, so there are 5 questions listed on the scroll. Okay, if you keep going down, and it says pages 71 to 84. So those are the pages in our play that we did in class. Those little books that I handed out. So the page assignments that I have listed here coincide with those. Okay, so the same exact thing. So there's 5 questions, but I only want you to do 1, 2, and 5. Okay, I don't need you to do 3 and 4. It's a lot of work, and I don't think it's incredibly necessary. I just kind of wanted you to see how Howard, Willie's boss, treats him is very, very similar to how Willie treats Linda. Okay, he cuts her off and other things like that, and Howard cuts Willie off. And then also you see, right before this scene, Willie gave Biff all these tips on how to talk to Bill Oliver. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't say that. Okay, and then he goes in with his boss, Howard, and literally does the exact same thing. So those are the 2 questions I don't need you to respond to, but just keep that in mind as you're reading. Okay, so try to get those done. Like I said, apply it to the scroll and just send me the whole thing, as always, as a PDF. And get done what you can get done. There's no such thing as late work. Okay, when you get stuff in, I'll figure it out, and I'll make sure you get those grades and show that you're doing some work while we're all dealing with this. So as always, if you got any questions or concerns, email me is the best way. I'm tied to my iPad all day here, so I can get back to you quickly. Also, don't forget our research papers, so kind of throw them together and get those turned in as soon as possible. There's no late penalty on that either. So do what you can, when you can, the best you can, and get that stuff to me so I can get you your grades. All right, hang in there, gang. See ya.